Hi, this is Privateer Station, and today is day 217 of Ukraine's war for independence against Putin's invasion. As usual, we're bringing you Mark Fagin, Russian opposition journalist, and Alexei Arestovich, Lieutenant Colonel, advisor to the Office of the President of Ukraine. Enjoy! Dear friends, glad to see you all on Fagin Live again. It is Wednesday, 28th of September, 10 p.m. Kiev time, and we're doing another stream, day 217, with Alexei Arestovich. You're dressed up today, Alexei? No, just clothed. All right, gotcha. I'm glad to see you. Likewise. Very glad to see you, Mark, too. And we have over 100,000 people watching us live, over 17,000 click the like button. The usual ask, share the link to that stream in your social media, with your friends, with anybody who needs to see that information. Subscribe to Fagin Live, to Alexei Arestovich, and to the Privateer Station if you are watching or listening to that in English. All right, let's get to discussing the latest news. We'll start from the map. Tell us what's happening there. Generally, it's about the same, Mark. The only thing is that some evil seers from Russia, the bloggers and war correspondents, are saying that we have almost surrounded Liman, and today or tomorrow, very likely it will fall. But that's what they're saying. Our general command has not confirmed that. Russian internet screams a lot of different things. They're saying that Kolodezi is Ukrainian, and Ukraine is getting real close to that water reservoir in the middle of the map and down from it. I suspect this motion will not be stopped, and they're waiting. A small, nice kettle is definitely awaiting for them there. Do you think it can be stopped if they throw some of those mobilized people towards Liman? No, Mark. They had only one road to get to Liman. This is under fire control by our troops now. There is no way to resupply Liman or get anybody there en masse right now. So they very likely will send mobilized ones to Svatova. This is a second line of defense. You can see it at 12 o'clock on this map, near the small water blue dot there, that is Svatova. And they'll probably start to reinforce that second line. I don't think there's a way for them to save Liman. Well, there is a discussion that we have not started yet, right? That famous Putin's phrase. And it looks like he is starting now with mobilization. So it's curious if they'll dump all the mobilized people into those areas where they're losing right now. And correct me in the chat if I'm wrong. I think Bloomberg or somebody else posted today that they're almost going to send these mobilized people almost on Kharkov from, I guess, Belgrade, and from the south through Kherson to Nikolaev and Odessa. Oh yeah, they have a ton of plans to even get to Kiev. The other question is, how executable are these plans? For example, let's take the Kiev version. These heroes came here with their elite parts, special forces, motorized infantry, and it took us about a month to kick them out. There were 45,000 of them, right? What if there was 100,000? Oh, it wouldn't make any difference. It would only make it worse for them, because one of their major problems near Kiev was that they had too many troops there. That area does not afford for use of that many troops. But for us, that big warfare was a surprise. We were not experienced in fighting on scale. They got to Kiev basically in 2 days, and we were fighting against the professional army. Now there are people who have no training. Imagine you send a high schooler who plays violin to fight against Muhammad Ali. That's what's going on. So with elite parts, it took us, a month to kick them from Kiev. With mobilized, we'll grind them much faster. How long do you think it'll take you? Well, the main part is that we will grind them. It doesn't even matter how long. The fact is they will have horrible losses, and they're definitely going to lose. Well, we have to discuss that because we have potential mobilized watching us, and the ones who are mobilized too, they need to recognize what is going to happen with them. Well, then I would say they need to recognize that they are going to a boxing bout with an Olympic boxing champion, and that's their chances to win. Let me finish the idea, hang on. Okay. When we were defeating Russian troops near Kiev, we had a very huge deficit of ammo. We've been begging for ammo from everywhere we could find. There were 14 groups around Kiev, I'll give you an example, and we could reach only 3 with what we had there, and that was enough to kick them out. And now we have HIMARS. New HIMARS were announced today, by the way. We'll talk about that separately. This deserves a separate discussion. We got also 155 artillery caliber, and we know the areas. Now we have invaders who don't know how to fight, who have never been here, and we are meeting them and greeting them. Do you know there is another special missile for HIMARS that explodes in the air and covers a much wider radius with metal shrapnel? Yeah, I know that. I actually heard a discussion that if, those usual suicide bombers in some parts of the world, when they suicide themselves, if they threw the vest up, it would be a much more devastating explosion if it was blown up above the crowd. So yeah, that's exactly what's going on with that missile. Boom, and there's no detachment. Boom, and a notable part of battalion is gone. Alright, let's go in more detail. They are really slowing down near Bakhmut. Seems like they're running out of force, out of reserves there. Yes, they still have artillery shelling us, but those, hooray, we're going into the infantry attack, that's not going on anymore. And, by the way, let's get back to Kiev defense operation, to the second one, if that happens. We now have Volynskaya and Zhytomyrskaya directions covered. We did not have them covered before. So there is a possible kettle awaiting for them, however they try to get across our border. So in Bakhmut, they're slowing down, they're losing their advancing potential, and that super precious, motivated stormtrooping detachments, they're grinding themselves down and they're losing people. So they usually, what they did near Bakhmut, they shelled an area, we left it, they came in, we shelled them back and pushed them out. So, and also in a couple places we pushed them out further than they initially took. And you can see that on the map. And if it shows that if our counteroffensive becomes successful, it means their offensive potential is weakening. This was the only direction where they had some advancements. And even there, they're slowly dying. Let's go down south, 6 o'clock, Gorlovka and Mariinka. Not much happening there. They just use some artillery, randomly pops up aviation, but nothing systemic is happening there. And some people in Russian media are also complaining that on Mariinskaya and Ugledar direction somebody got their asses handed to them and they started to retreat. We have not acknowledged that. I do not believe Russian chats, but I believe my general command, but there are no notes and messages that is difficult there, and it is hard there. If it is so, then who knows, maybe that's a third direction. A small one, but a cute one. And Zaporozhye artillery and aviation, headbutting. I think 93rd posted a couple of shot down Su-25s, but we're still verifying that. The video didn't show the hit itself, just the smoke coming from the ground. So we're verifying if 2 more were shot down. And Kherson direction, where we're continuing our operation, continuing to cause more damage using HIMARS artillery, shelling the river crossing command outposts, just smashing them deeper down into the ground to the moment when they'll lose capability to resist on the ground. We don't know when it'll happen, but for now we continue to weaken that group. Just imagine we take a huge hammer and start hammering them down. And that's the situation where it's accumulating, and at some point that situation will topple. And that's, in general, everything on the map. Yeah, we went throughout the whole line, right, the front line. We can also mention that Kharkov territory is being shelled from across the border, but there are no skirmishes on the ground. They also shot 3 missiles at Dnipro today. We shot them down. Of course, there are Iranian drones on the front. All right, Iranian drones, analyzing the past period. How good are you guys at shooting it down? Yeah, it's pretty good. We are shooting them well, and it's not really about targeting them, it's more about tracking them, where they're coming from. In some places where we catch them, we definitely shoot them down. It's more about, if it comes from unexpected direction and unexpected place. They will not become a game-changing weapon. They're just adding a bit of pressure. It is definitely an obstacle, but they need maybe 5 times more than now to provide any notable effect on the battlefront. Interesting. Okay, 378,000 watching us live. We've been online for 12 minutes, almost 100,000 click the like button. I remind those who are joining us, please post the link and make sure you do subscribe to Fagin Live, to Alexey Arestovich, and to the Privateer Station if you are listening or watching that in English. All the links are down at the description. All right, let's continue mobilization. We have a ton of different videos leaking. It's good. People are posting them. They're showing a bunch of mobilized people. As they're saying, some videos claim that some of them already perished on the front. It all looks pretty sad. Some gyms, bunker beds. Yeah, I've seen some bunker beds in the forest. That's very reminding of the 1990s army that I've seen. I heard different things about the forest. Somebody mentioned that it was firefighters or somebody else. But there was one of the videos had a irony in that in one of the Moscow theaters they put the mobilization outpost, and somebody got the bureaucrats on video removing some of the posters. One of them was for dead souls. Very symbolic, right? Okay, so we talked that a lot of people left the country, fled from Putin's regime. Some part went into individual resistance strategy, but a rather notable big share of people do comply and follow with mobilization. I don't know what they're hoping for, but when do you think we'll expect them on the front? With Zinin, it's not so simple. If you watch yesterday or the day before yesterday, Simonyan and Solovyov, they're famous propagandists on the TV, they actually had a phrase on their TV show when... I'm sorry, I'm not watching their videos too much, too often. Yeah, me neither. Somebody did point that out to me, that they did have in their stream that commissioners and commissars need probably to be executed for failing that draft objective. And, maybe he, as an honest citizen, took that command to heart and went and shot his commissar. So now, instead of giving him a Hero of Russia medal, they showed him on camera as if he'd done something bad. There is actually a video where these two propagandists say, let's execute the commissars, the military draft commissioners. So he did not violate that appeal. Actually, speaking of the mobilized ones, they are already here. There are not too many, but we noticed some near Svatova. They're trying to plug that hole. We estimate the main mass to arrive in a couple of weeks. So in a couple of weeks, they probably won't get much training. Yeah, I don't expect they'll train much. Maybe they'll have a chance to shoot a target a couple of times and maybe throw a grenade, although I'm critical about the grenade option, because imagine 200,000 grenades wasted. Yeah, one throw of a grenade. What do you think they can throw? RGD or F1? No, F1 is too expensive. It's a pretty evil grenade and big if you drop it in the wrong place. If RGD is dropped in the wrong place, then your teammates are about 30 meters behind you, 30 yards behind. They probably won't suffer much. But F1, if you drop it, there'll be some dead. I don't know. If they'll just let them throw it fully functioning, or maybe, a dummy thing. So, do you think the whole wave will come? The whole 200,000, 300,000? No, probably 60, maybe 50, 60,000. Well, that's a noticeable piece, portion of them. Yeah, but initially, when they started, including DNR, LNR, there were maybe much more. There was a much larger army, and they right now became weaker, and they're not trained, and we became more plentiful with weapons supplied by our allies. So what are these 90,000 about? That's like an lubrication for our swords, so, and bayonets. So I'm frankly just, I feel sad about their destiny. I'm sorry for them. And I'm not Alexei, I don't feel sorry for them. That's their choice. Well, I'm not sorry for each of them individually, but I'm sorry for that group of people who fell for Putin's propaganda. Yeah, well, I'll feel sorry when they start getting those body bags back. They won't, Mark. They were not gathering their cadre military. These guys will just remain lying here in the fields and forests and ravines. They already wrote them off. They're essentially talking on the higher level in Russia that these ones will perish and they will provide enough time to restock a cadre military and maybe train better ones. We're not talking about proper training, because I don't think they can provide that in current conditions, but they literally wrote off the first batch. Basically, you're there to go and lie down and buy some time for the rest. And then there'll be second and third. Yeah, I sincerely hope, Alexei, that after the first wave goes down, there may be some serious resistance processes starting in Russia. Yeah, I confirm. I'm of the same opinion. Dagestan, I think, shed light on the possible direction this all can develop. These guys are... Russian administration is insane. Every time I think of what else stupid can they make, they always outmatch me. They threw Chechen Russian Guard to suppress rebellion in Dagestan. These peoples have beef with each other, and they're sending Chechens Russian Guard to suppress Dagestan revolts. So that only added gasoline to the fire. And there is more information coming up that in Dagestan they first put it on pause. There is no mobilization happening right now there. And there are rumors that it is on pause indefinitely. Very likely it'll be like that, I agree with you. And yeah, there are other regions like Tatarstan, Kalmykia, Tuva, Yakutia. So national regions probably should be louder if they don't want to partake in that colonial war. I agree with you, exactly. Let's see how it unfolds, and let's talk about the Western supplies to Ukraine. So the West does react, right? So more mobilized, more forces. There will be a blowback from the West, right? Yeah, we mentioned that. 18 HIMARS we got extra. This is basically doubling, almost doubling the numbers of that weapon that we have. Missiles, what kind of missiles do you think they'll supply? Those ATACMS that people are talking about, do you think you'll get them? Mark, I will say that they announced we'll have missiles. For all these mobilized, you don't need ATACMS. You need different kinds and different sizes. We're also getting air defense systems. We're getting more artillery support. Remember, Putin regime said that they will take out our energy systems for the winter. Now we do have more defense for our precious outposts and civilian structure. And yeah, looking at number of missiles shot today, we are getting better at covering our air. And battle capabilities of Ukrainian military are growing rapidly. And now to utilize our advantages, they're throwing mobilized army to, they have no experience. And by the way, we got some anti-drone equipment. That's interesting. How do they work? Well, it's a directed signal. I will not go into technical details, but this allows us to shoot down Iranian equipment much more effectively. Look, that was just a couple of weeks, and now we have weapons to fight that, to fight Iranian UAVs. We're also getting armored vehicles. That's important for offensive, because our tactic of sudden moves on basically what are pickup trucks was very fruitful. And we cannot use it everywhere, but in some parts we can. And we reinforce them with machine gun and rifles. Usual pickup truck will be shredded by enemy's rifle fire, small arms fire. But if it is an armored vehicle, and if you put a machine gun on top, that already protects its crew from small arms and even shrapnel and some of the higher caliber weapons. So that allows us for those sudden attacks on different parts. So you think the collection, the type, and assortment of what you guys are getting will definitely change, right? We are already experiencing that. We got special resupply against Iranian drones. For new mobilized, we're getting our HIMARS numbers doubled. Before they were, remember, 2 or 3 extra per month. Now all of a sudden we get 18. So that's not a secret. We used to have 25, now it's 18 more. So what's the total number? 25 plus 18? 43. Yep. We asked to double, they did. Artillery shells, we are in good supply, so we don't run low on that. I'm also expecting and hoping for maybe another 100 or 200 artillery systems. That will definitely help. And then they can send 17 or 18 mobilized if they want to. Millions. You don't feel sorry for them. I do. I look at their pictures and I understand they're dead men walking. Well, I was appealing to them for the whole year, even before the war, to not take part in it. I was appealing to them, I keep appealing to them daily to not do it, and people are like sheep, they're just following the orders of their Führer. Well, maybe not like sheep, but they're following the social contract with the country they live in. Yeah, social position is I don't go voting because I cannot change. But going to the front to kill somebody and die there, that's beyond that. Yeah, and then they'll be screaming, oh, who's responsible? Ben Hodges made an interesting note today that next year, middle of next year, Ukrainian forces will be in Crimea. Yeah, I heard that. That was an interesting omission or note that he gave in the interview. I actually would not be surprised, Mark, if we see our troops in Crimea and we actually will be greeted there by locals, because they are sort of rebelling there because of that mobilization, because Russian administration is now drafting everybody and sending them to the front. So they can, if they could take the weapons and point them a different direction, that would be helpful. But what Putin's command doesn't understand, that mobilized people will be fleeing the front en masse. Mobilized brigade will not hold under fire for 3 days. Cadre, yeah, they could probably handle that for a week. These guys, I don't see them doing it. All you need to do, you just concentrate fire on certain brigade, keep shooting at them for a few days, maybe up to a week, and then the remnants will start running, leaving a hole in the front. And how people from Crimea or Kherson, or Zaporozhye region, if they concoct a brigade out of those people, they'll be fleeing, they'll be surrendering, they'll be leaving parts of front empty. So I'm sure at some point we'll come back to Crimea and they'll be greeting us with flowers. And also Crimean Tatars, who are being oppressed by Putin's regime now. So as the war continues, all those supporters, pro-Putin people will flee regime. Will flee Crimea, and they likely will be a very warm welcome to us. I also had an interesting dream a couple of days ago about a couple of regions of Russia running a referendum and voting to join Ukraine, the borderline regions. That was an interesting one. I would not be surprised if they actually would ask us to come join. There are many of Ukrainian descent over in those regions, and they're descendants of Ukrainian Cossacks. So, you never know what will happen at the end of it. It just will take us some time to grind that new mass that they're throwing into the front line. All right, tell me one more thing. More sanctions are being announced. The usual piecemeal here and there, but there'll be economic sanctions, of course. Not even discussing that. Dugin, their ideologist of Putin's regime, is among the sanctions. Singer Astraguev from the group Lyubaya fell under the sanctions. Interesting figure. Well, he lives in Germany, not so much in Russia, so... president of Kalashnikov factories. So any comments on the sanctions, on the personalities involved? Mark, I don't have special information about sanctions, but I know that Yermak, Makfol Commission are working on that. And they will, I'm sure, write up more sanctions. They're creative and they're very doggedly pursuing the targets. So, okay, referendums, they're counting the last votes, and probably September 30th they'll announce something about annexation of these territories. Anything new with oil and gas and supplies, and how may annexation work with that? Well, let's look at the gas pipes. Let's see, who exploded them? Those Nord Stream pipes? What do you think, Mark? I think it's Russian. I think it's Moscow. Well, okay, I'm with you on that, because I also have another question. Why on earth would you blow up the underwater pipeline? It is difficult. It's ecology, it's difficult to repair. They could have blown up the land piece, the land segment of it. Do you know what's happening with them? They traveled like Pinocchio thoughts to the land of very brief decision-making, very short thoughts. They do not try to foresee and analyze things. So now they're trying to, cut Europe off with the supply from the supplies of gas when Europe is already stocked with gas for this winter. And I may say another thing. Maybe a bit horrible for some in the West, but I would not exclude Moscow from hitting also the landline they have over Ukraine. Maybe, you know, on the principle, you're not buying our gas, then you're not getting our gas. And I suspect there may be a party there that just wants to cut Europe off Russian gas. And that'll really affect their economy. And I don't know if they'll just put the Iron Curtain and sit there on the walls protecting their motherland after that. So it's curious to see how that'll unfold. There is one more pipeline, Nord Stream 1 and the land one. So we'll see. It's curious. I think the only interesting thing that's unfolding, are they going to blow these pipes, and will the mobilized people be thrown into any sort of offensive, or they'll just be sitting there on the front trying to secure the captured territories? So you think that is the whole general strategy, to cut Europe off from any gas from Russia? Europe, you get frozen. I don't know, something like that. They're probably switching to defense. Maybe somebody understands that war was the end of Putin as a politician, but they do want to restore his regime and keep it, because that's their feeder system, that's how they get money, and they do want by any option to save the regime. And I suspect the only way for them to survive that is to really shut down the country. And maybe mass mobilization is part of that effort to basically take people out of the streets, out from the cities, so they would not be able to rebel. And that buys them time, and maybe also provides them somebody to quell the next wave of protests that may happen. Yeah, that does appear that they may be directing the country to the North Korean development strategy, and they probably will grab those who are active, send them to the front, grind them down. Then the ones who are not prone to revolting will likely serve, and then maybe use that army against their own people, against those who may want to rebel and topple the power, because they are fighting for their lives. In Russia, you know, if you lose power, you lose your life. So at a cost of losing the country down to the North Korean civilizational model, they're still trying, actually worse than that, they're trying maybe to cut themselves off from the civilized world. That's a serious risk in my estimation. It's like a big concentration camp. And again, if it goes by that, if it goes in that direction, the possibility of using nuclear tacticals really goes down. Yeah, because if they're defending their borders, right, if they're not going anywhere, exactly. Maybe they can use it on some of the occupied territories, actually, to say, do not attack them, this is our land. But we'll see. I did want to talk today about the potentiality of using a small-scale nuke somewhere in the front. Maybe, for example, Snake Island, Zminy, so that gives them a picture with the mushroom and, you know, something to show to the world and say, hey, we can still do that. In that case, do you think there'll be a response from NATO and United States? If you're asking me if United States will destroy their Black Sea Fleet if they attack Snake Island, I doubt that. Probably will not. It's, you know, they got to be victims and consequences. Snake Island is an isolated piece of land with nobody there. But I'm sure it will affect, again, the assortment and the numbers of weapons we get from allies. So one needs to understand that this is also a big media campaign. We have a real mobilization, fake referendums, and fake media situation with nuclear weapons, because nukes are very unlikely to be used. So their principle is they'll be defending the whole proposition here is that they'll be defending newly occupied territories as Russian land. And we know how they can defend Russian land. They can't. So what would their target be? They need to either attack the advancing Ukrainian troops with that weapon to stop us, or maybe hit some big parts of infrastructure, or maybe railroad junctions, or military supplies, or something. But they do have a warning from European states to not do that. So actually, Snake Island in this case becomes a feasible target because you still want they still might want to use some sort of nuclear weapon somewhere. So in this case, they do that, but at the same time, they're also raising stakes. Although Zelensky did mention today that if you are using any of that, if you are accepting the referendum, the fake ones that you've just done, we're not going to talk to you about anything. So it appears these guys are in the funnel, in the catastrophic funnel, where each next decision only worsens their situation. Yep, in the chess it's called Zugzwang, where every next step makes everything worse. Regardless, you only have bad options. And mobilization is a good example of that. The threat to use nuclear weapon is another example of that. So I almost physically feel how the remnants of sane people are fighting with the other group of people in Kremlin who are saying, well, what other options do we have? So this is sort of a circus. It's like Russian-Japanese war, doubled or tripled. I cannot remember any other country in the history of the world that was so going down the drain by their own volition. Before the war, remember how people treated Putin? Like he affected elections in America, that he's so powerful. And now, since Ukrainians said, no, we're not playing that game, and starting to resist, and other countries joined, it appears that actually turned out the king is not even naked, he is already skinned. And on his last line, their strategy and the country are falling apart like wet toilet paper. They're just destroying themselves. It's self-destruction on the highest level. I can't even remember, when that happened, if that happened before. I started to understand a lot of things in historic perspective. I understand how did Soviet army surrender to Germany in the Second World War. I understand how Russian fleet died during the Russian-Japanese war. They actually had advantages over Japanese military, but they all died, or most of them. Just like that battle in Tsushima, when they're just doing stupid maneuvers and getting hit by Japanese military. So now they're repeating that same situation. They're sending people to just be killed without any strategy. All that academy of this general command, all the courtyards, remember back, it kind of brings me back to the Tsar Empire, where they had the whole Moscow school of military, of diplomacy and everything, and they all failed within a few years. And by 1917, nothing was left. And here's the same. We have Moscow with all the fancy institutions that are supposed to work out strategies, logistics, production, military operations, and they're only making dumb and dumbest decision. Where are you? Where's the experience? Experience, where did you go? So since April, I roughly projected how to think about them. I think I cracked that. I was imagining what is the dumbest decision could be made in that situation. And if they make that decision, we can give a third order of hero to Putin and his regime for idiocy they do. And almost every time they beat me in the idiotic ideas. Every time they come on top, they do something worse, something so spectacular that I couldn't even think about that. You put me in a cage and make me think up these dumb scenarios. It's very unlikely I will be able to come up with these things that they come up with in Moscow. Yeah, that's my favorite quote. From the dumbest, throw something out so I can throw it back at you again. Yeah, I can only imagine the amount of deaths that will happen on the front where the mobilized people will come to the front. They don't know how to behave, Mark. They don't know how to find the right position. They don't know how to dig trenches. It'll just be execution en masse in the field. their value is not even 0. Their battle worthiness is negative. Their presence on the front will likely diminish the battle worthiness of already existing Russian army, because they also need to supply them, right? And they don't have anybody else. So these guys will be dragging them down. They wanted to increase some capability, maybe even by 0.25, but in reality they failed to calculate that they're damaging whatever they already had. They're essentially going to break their existing remaining system with a new group that doesn't know how to and what to, and still needs to eat, still needs ammo, still needs supplies, and we haven't even started shooting at them much. By the way, a reminder to the newly mobilized that we're not attacking rebelling troops. We will help you. If we know that you are rebelling, we'll help you get rid of the ones who will be sent to suppress you. Okay, we have 512,000 watching us. Over 160,000 click the like button. Last point for today is Belarus. They're talking about possible trains of mobilized people who might be routed via Belarus to Kiev offensive. Do you think Lukashenko will go for that? And despite of his previous promises not to attack Ukraine with his own military, but let them go to Bucha and Gostomel and other parts. He doesn't have an option. If Russian military goes into Belarus, he will have to comply. The other question is if they will go, and they don't even know what will happen if they cross the border. But my feelings, again, I'll highlight, according to my feelings, not the data, I don't think we'll be sentimental this time. I don't think we'll be waiting for them to cross the border. Oh, I got you. I think we'll not be waiting for another Bucha. I think they are going to get hit even before they cross the border. On the Belarus side, right? Hello, 18 HIMARS. We've been live for 42 minutes. We do have a stream tomorrow, right? Yes, our stream is on for tomorrow. Over 500,000 watching us live. One last point, we have new merch. Finally, by the request of our viewers, an artist, Lilia Rubchenko from Kharkov, drew us. I think I look a bit younger in Simpson style. You got fifth project on your t-shirt, and I think you look scarier. But I have no say in this, so whatever I'm given, that's what we are now. You know, kids like Simpsons. They need to wear something. So I do recommend our viewers to dig into our store. Oh yeah, we finally trying to capture American market, right? With Simpsons. Yeah, basically. And we have not been hit by any copyright. So I guess we are okay. And we are teetering around the known cultural things, big as Simpsons. So I know some people like it, like Simpsons, so maybe that would be interesting for some of you. I do remind you to keep shopping, and we are supporting those people released from prison, from Azov defenders, and I got in touch with Mariana Mamonova, so just verifying a few things, and we'll send all the money from all the proceeds from the shop to help these people. We're just clearing out some logistics. We do not have much staff, but we will continue helping those people who suffered the most in Russian prison, Ukrainian war fighters, so we'll continue helping. By the way, Mark, I just had an idea. What do you when they open a new dual star system somewhere, there is a good candidate name for that. Oh, Alexei, I'm not even pretending to be part of that name. Well, Arestovich and Arestovich is a little too much even for me, so I think Fagin Arestovich would be good. You know, Another thing, another option besides the star system, coffee on a red square. That's another opportunity. Okay, I concur. That's a great perspective. And we have a lot of plans waiting for you all tomorrow. And you, Alexei, too, please come. I'll do my best. Thank you for an invite, Mark. Yes, we'll be waiting for you. Goodbye, everybody.